Welcome to Hope for Everybody, a channel that exists to highlight people and places that are all about providing hope to people in need. Check out today's episode.
Welcome to Hope for Everybody, and in one of our last episodes, you heard me get interviewed about More Than Redemption Church and how it came to be. Today, we are here with the incoming pastor at More Than Redemption Church, Brandon Lutrt.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Brandon. Appreciate you. So, I wanted to take a minute to interview you and to just ask for the sake of the audience because, one thing I've been prone to tell people, Brandon, you've been working for a lot of years to become an ordained pastor in the Orthodox Presbyterian Church.
Indeed.
How many years would you say you've been working on this?
6 years now coming up. I started off taking classes part-time, and then I started taking classes a little bit faster later, so I took it more slowly. I kind of eased into it. So
6 years you've been working to become an ordained pastor. Are you licensed now, or is that coming?
That's coming up in May.
So you become licensed and then ordained? Is that the way it works?
That's exactly how it works.
Once you're installed, is that?
Well, it's think of the ordination and licensure process like this. The licensure process means the church holds you out as someone who is preaching doctrine. They are an Orthodox preacher. Then the ordination process is when the church says, we recognize that, we want you. So the ordination comes with the call. So the church says, you're ready. Then they say, we want you. There you go.
Gotcha. So you've been working for 6 years, and you finished your master's degree.
Well, it's MDiv, yeah. The Masters of Divinity degree is standard that most preachers have.
From Reformed Theological Seminary.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody would have come to you when you first started this 6 years ago and said, when you finish, you could end up becoming a pastor of a church full of felons, even registered sex offenders, guys who've committed murder, whatever, could you imagine, would that have been the scenario you had in mind for your future as a pastor? Honestly?
In all honesty, there's kind of a two-part answer to that. One, no, because I wasn't aware, first of all, that this ministry existed. But secondly, I was prepared for a ministry like this. My educational background is in psychology. I have several degrees, unfortunately, that I probably have paid way too much for, but no, I have a degree in psychology, a degree in criminology, and then a master's degree in criminal justice.
You
Criminology.
have 2 bachelors?
I have 2 bachelors, 1 master's, as well as this MDiv. So the way I look at it is, God was saying, I'm going to teach you about human behavior. I'm going to teach you about human misbehavior. And now, providentially, He's showing us that now I'm going to show you how to solve that problem. So it doesn't scare me at all. It doesn't, I have no negative feelings about it because I really do believe that providentially I've been put in a place where I get to take all of that baggage of education, all of that load of education, and to care for people who've been incarcerated and put it to use. So.
Wow.
No.
That's astounding. I think I've heard you mention that once before about the criminal justice degree and stuff, but I never put it together until you just kind of put it all together like that. That is honestly a thankless position. To become a pastor of a church like this, and yet at the same time, you look back over the course of your life and you see the amazing hand of God's providence in bringing all of those things together in one position for you.
Well, a position, for me, is one way to put it. I'd say for those who need it the most, because I'm not looking to show up in heaven and have somebody say, congratulations, good and effective servant. I'm looking for somebody to say, congratulations, good and faithful servant. This is something that I feel called to do, and I'm very much looking forward to implementing that as best I can to the degree that He wants me to. So.
If you're liking this content, please help us grow. Like, subscribe, and let's keep the good times rolling. Now back to the episode.
As the guy who founded the church, of course, I basically somewhat officially, unofficially passed the baton to you at the last service and said, this is going to be the guy that's going to be the pastor. And a lot of people would ask, why aren't you the pastor? Well, the Orthodox Presbyterian Church, of course, as you know, has all kinds of qualifications to become a pastor. And I didn't satisfy most of those requirements. It's ironic because many people who were ordained pastors in the OPC would say, you're the best guy for the job. And I'd say, well, then why do I need all this education if I'm the best guy for the job? But the reality is, because of the type of congregation we do, because of my own background, I told them from the beginning, I felt like the very best thing was to bring in somebody from the outside so that the rooster's not in charge of the hen house. That's a big concern for people about this church that we have, is they're concerned, and I think legitimately so, that the rooster's in charge of the hen house, that you have felons in charge of felons, you have felons over felons, and so what's going on behind the scenes? This gives us a church with the pastor who has no connection to this history at all. You personally, as far as I know, have no criminal history at all.
No
Is that correct?
history. Yes, that's no
Well-educated, godly man, well-established, family man. You're going to be overseeing this church with a session, as Presbyterians do. You're part of the session of elders, none of whom are us, none of whom are connected to us, other than they, like you, have a love and a passion for what we're doing here. And so I am super excited and just humbled that you and these other men have come alongside this church and been willing to take us and fight for this church, really. It's been a fight.
It has been. It has been.
It's not even done, probably. There's some stuff brewing, I understand.
Well, I'm not privy to any information you don't have, but yes, there are some people who, and I understand their concerns. The reason some of the concerns that people have about this ministry are more emotional than they are actual stated, like a formal complaint, as it were. The idea of having the hen in the hen house, like you're talking about, they do have a hawk eye on who is at this ministry and who is doing what with this ministry. One of the things that I think that they're worried about is the presence of people who might do them harm. But what they fail to recognize, at least that I would argue, and I don't fault them for this, is the fact that you're taking a known quantity with a known set of issues and saying we advert to those issues and we are going to speak to them, we are going to minister to them, we are going to help them, whereas people with issues very similar to those in this ministry realistically occupy those congregations already. They just haven't been caught. And to say that a ministry is condemned because of the nature of their constituents, every one of our congregations is condemned. We stand condemned before Him first, but secondly, some of us just are luckier than others. Some of us have done terrible things in our lifetimes that nobody's even privy to. So a known, I'm going to use a loaded term here, but a known danger is less dangerous than an unknown danger. And I want them to see that the people that we minister to here at MTR, they're brothers, fathers, uncles, children. They have all of the same parts of life that everybody else has, and they require the same reconciliation with them and with God that only the gospel can help. Unfortunately, they've spent some time in jail, and some of them many, many years, some of them just a couple of years. Some of them never even did any time in jail. They just got probation or something. But the beauty of what a ministry to people that society is just as happy to throw away as they are to anything else is the system will fail you every single time. The numbers say that all of the state's efforts to rehabilitate and to solve your problems, to place you in work, to do all of these things that they say they want to accomplish, they can't do it because they can't change your heart. The only thing that can change your heart is the Lord. And because of this, people with a clear mind, people with the fear behind them can recognize that. And an example that I give is there are some members of my church that I'm coming from that have had a history with sexual violence, either on themselves or in their families at some point or other. And the ones who've had the most recent or closest proximate history with sexual abuse are the ones who are most supportive of this ministry. The ones who understand that there is only one thing that's going to solve that problem, and that is a changed heart. And there's only one who is the author of a changed heart, and that's Jesus. And we need him more than anything else, especially these men, as well as everybody else. We all just struggle with our own issues.
I don't know who coined the expression, but I love it. Rehabilitation through regeneration.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
it, right? Being born again,
Exactly.
born from above, saved. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
One of the things, Brandon, that really I loved at the presbytery when the discussion was going on about whether or not they would receive More Than Redemption as a mission church. One of the things that I loved at the presbytery discussion was when somebody spoke up. Actually, it was Pastor Andrew Moody from San Antonio Reform. He spoke up and he asked the people who were objecting, "Have you been to the church?"
Yeah.
And every one of them that would object said, no, they'd not been to the church.
It's funny how that works. Now, I don't want to cast aspersions to anybody's character. I don't want to say anybody is right or wrong in the way they're approaching this. I'm very sympathetic to an emotional response in this regard. However, I do believe you're correct. I think that if any of them would come and see the resounding male voices in a room singing to the Lord, singing his praises, and to see the when they look left and they look right, they see fellow believers. They see people who have been changed, and they see people who struggle, yes, but they see people who want better for themselves and want better for society. They want to make up to society for what they've done. Unfortunately, society has a very narrow picture of what that looks like, and they, if they would come and see the just earth-shattering difference, as we know from the scriptures, the old has passed away, behold, the new has come. These people are new people. These are new people. Now, I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm not perfect, but I'm saying that they're new people. They're people who have a different set of motivations, a new heart, and a desire to be a member of the community, to work, to have fellowship with other Christian believers, to do things that we all want to do in social life, have barbecues, have people over, have friends. Sometimes that's difficult with some reporting requirements on where you have to be and that type of thing with ankle monitors, etc. But if you clear those, I argue, insubstantial hurdles, those are not things that are solving their problems. You can get to the thing that will solve their problem, which is Christian fellowship and an adoration for Jesus.
You know, one of the concerns that a pastor had was he wanted it explicitly clear on our website that we have felons in our congregation. So if somebody wants to visit More Than Redemption Church, they will know we have felons and specific kinds of felons. And so I had to address some of that in the language on the homepage of our church now. But having said that, and one of the things I said in there very honestly was, we have a lot of guys there that are only there because it's required to be in our aftercare program, because we have 15 houses where we help guys when they get out of prison. Some of them are there just because they're required to be there. We know this. But there is a core group of men whose hearts have been changed, whose lives have been changed, and who, by the grace of God, are still there and doing well. And I love telling the story. I told it in the podcast earlier. 5 men in the last 5 years came, saw, conquered, did an amazing job, got out, got jobs, saved money, just bought their first house. 2 of those men had been in more than 20 years each. 3 of the others had been in more than 12 years each. Those men got out of prison, came to this ministry, served Christ, loved Christ. 4 of them still go to the church. Even though they've graduated the ministry, graduated the program, they still go to the church. To me, there's no greater testimony to what Christ can do. That's more than redemption. That's where sin did abound, grace does much more abound. And so, More Than Redemption Church is ecstatic to have you as its new pastor, incoming pastor.
Well, Lord willing, the word will rub off on those who are here because they have to be. I mean, that's, R.C. Sproul was humble enough to say when he discusses when he discusses, am I certain of my salvation? He preaches very much on the fact that there are going to be some who show up and say, Lord, Lord, did we not preach in your name? Did we not do wonderful works in your name? And he'll say, depart from me, because I never knew you. And he was humble enough to say, if I've deceived myself all these years and I end up in hell, I'm not going to be angry about it. I'm going to be very sad about it. Well, I apply that same concept to people who are in MTR because they have to, due to some requirement, due to a contractual obligation or something. The fact that they are there is no different than somebody who may be struggling with his faith in another church. There are going to be people who are in the Christian church who are there for any variety of reasons. And some of them who are there just because Dad wanted them to go, or the state wanted them to go, or something like that. But the point is they're getting exposed to the Word. The point is they're getting exposed to the thing that changes hearts. And I don't care what their current condition is right now. My only prayer is that the Spirit does His work, and the Spirit makes them into what God has declared them to be, which is a son. I hope that more than anything else.
Because you and I know the state can't change them.
No.
We will never change them with our persuasive words of wisdom, as Paul says.
I had a friend who said something I love. He said, I am thankful that salvation does not depend on what goes on in my head when I get cut off in traffic. I am not interested in being responsible for the salvation of people in a congregation. I'm anxious to be the one responsible for presenting the Word fully, declaring the whole counsel of God, and letting that counsel be the thing that changes hearts.
We've reached the end of today's episode of Hope for Everybody. If you'd like to be a part of the show and tell us your story, please visit us online at hopeforeverybody.org.